3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode 9. Today is Sunday, March 25th, or March 27th. I'm stupid. And the Elite Eight is almost complete. Today is the final day of the Elite Eight. 2 more games on today. Currently watching Kansas, Miami out of the Midwest region. After that, later we got North Carolina versus St. Peter's. So by the time this comes out, these games will be complete, obviously, and the Final Four will be set. Unfortunately, no Arizona, as they were eliminated the other night by the Houston Cougars and that elite defense that sent them to the Elite Eight. Very sad. I forgot to introduce. I am co-host Luke Newhouse with my other co-host
Cam.
And here we are again, getting set for the Final Four next weekend and another week of sports.
Yeah, and like you said, Houston advanced to the Elite Eight after taking out the Cats, but they fell to the other Cats, Villanova. So Villanova has punched their ticket to the Final Four in NOLA, New Orleans, and the Dukies as well have also punched their ticket. Coach K's first time ever winning the West bracket, and he will advance to another Final Four. I think, what is it? Is it his 14th Final Four? 13th Final Four. Yeah. Very sad. There was 2 great opportunities for this not to take place with both Michigan State and Texas Tech, and the Muss Bus honestly just never got started. They were completely just never in control of that game. Duke controlled it the whole way through, and they never really had a shot. But Texas Tech did. Texas Tech lost that game due to a 7-1 or 8-1 run by Duke in the final minute and a half of the game.
Yeah, Duke couldn't miss. They just made every single shot.
That's what I was saying when I was watching that game. Oh my God, they just literally can't miss right now. And it wasn't just right now, right then and there. It was most of the game. Their offense has just been way too good to where it has completely carried them. And now they're just 2 wins away from a Coach K retirement tour national title send-off.
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty I said at the beginning, whenever in the bracket preview episode, I said, I guess we're about to find out if the NCAA is rigged or not, and I think we're slowly finding out that it is. Not only with Duke advancing to the Final Four, but with North Carolina facing off against the 15 seed today to go to the Final Four, which would ultimately set up a matchup, a Duke-North Carolina matchup to go to the national championship. You can't write a better script than that.
Honestly. Well, they did. Huh? Well, you're saying that they did. They did write that script.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you can't write a better one than that. That makes it think that either that is one hell of a coincidence or it's rigged for that and for the views, which wouldn't surprise me because they want the views because they're the NCAA. But
yeah, taking us back to that Thursday, when I woke up that day, I was so ready for the games. Those few days off, we talked about this last week, how we were just okay, we need a few-day break. That few-day break actually did help because by the time Thursday came around, I was ready for the games to start back up again. And then there were no games until 6:09 p.m. Central Standard Time, which was kind of late in the day for them to start. But then I was oh, wait, people actually have to work a real job instead of having a spring break. So that's why the games were pushed back. So good on the NCAA, I guess, for actually allowing people to watch the games.
Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about the 3 days off. If there would have been games on Monday, I can't say I would have been excited to watch them. I probably wouldn't have watched them because I didn't really want to. I needed that break. The 3 days off, did some stuff, got caught up. And then by the time Thursday rolled around, it's okay, we're doing this again. We're underway again. And it's kind of the same thing today, although it's not nearly as bad. but it's kind of like, all right, another. Even
Yeah.
though this break's a lot longer, it's 5 days, but it's been a great 2 weekends of basketball. Couldn't really ask for anything better other than Arizona to be alive still.
Yeah, that was a really tough watch. I mean, Houston
Oh,
just slowly killed them. Death
it
by a
was.
thousand cuts with that defense. I thought that Arizona would be able to get something, some kind of run going, but
That
they never really did.
that was the most painful part of it because at the beginning of the game, Houston shut us down. But that's happened a few times. Like a few different teams have shut us down throughout the season. But to do it in that fashion and just completely dominate us, it it was so heartbreaking whenever we didn't go on that run because in all the other games, we've went on that run.
Mhm.
That 10-0, 12-0, 14-2 run where we just instantly get back into the game and even take the lead a lot of times. And I kept waiting for that to happen, like, because they weren't never dominated that much. It was always a 10-point, 8-point game. And
Yeah.
so it was like, well, just one big run here and they could get back into it. But that run never happened. So credit to Houston for stopping that. They were all, I mean, the first half, I figured out that good defense just means fouling everyone every time they touch the ball. But in the second half, they cleaned up the fouls because a lot of them were in foul trouble. They cleaned that up and they just played really tight defense and didn't allow any good passes, really. I mean, the shots were one thing, but Arizona, their specialty is the passes, like finding open people, and there just wasn't any of that in that game, and that's ultimately why Houston won.
Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't get on that run. The passing lanes weren't there. It's almost like they were a good defensive secondary or something like that. They just passing game just really couldn't get going either. And they weren't like running and gunning either through transition or anything. Houston just doesn't let that happen.
Yeah.
So without that, they just fell apart. So, and another game that kind of took place during the Sweet 16, I had a lot of faith in the Must Bus against Gonzaga. In fact, I almost mortal locked them, but wanted to ride with Big Cat in his game of the year against Duke with Texas Tech. But Gonzaga stopped by the Must Bus,
Yeah.
and all for naught though, because the Must Bus lost to Duke. And I tried so hard. I called the Hogs all day on
Yesterday.
Saturday and even on Friday. I was like, let's roll. And they just weren't able to do anything. So
Yeah. I mean, the Gonzaga one, I think a lot of people saw coming. They struggled really early in the
yeah,
tournament. They struggled with Georgia State, who didn't even win their conference regular season. And then they struggled with Memphis too, especially in that first half. Were just completely dominated by Memphis. And so you could tell they weren't playing their best basketball. And as soon as Chet Holmgren fouled out in that Arkansas game,
over.
done. I mean, they were already down by like 8. Drew Timme was off. It
Nah,
was just
he was. I guess you could say he was off, but I still felt like he was
no, he
just
was still
taking over in some
yeah,
stretches.
he was still pretty good, but I just felt like he wasn't as good as he needed to be without Chet out there for them to win.
Yeah,
And so the Zags fall again. I mean,
yeah,
before still without a national championship.
yeah. And I looked at their recruiting. I don't think they have a top 100 guy coming in at all
Mhm.
next year. But Drew is he's only a junior. So if he wants to come back, I'm sure Mark Few will say you're more than welcome to come back.
Oh
So
yeah, I think he will come back because I don't think he's really a highly touted NBA
no,
prospect at
no,
all. So
he's not. But he'll definitely play professional basketball, just maybe not in the NBA.
yeah,
Uh
Andrew Nemhard, I do believe, is a senior. The guard,
yeah,
he's a
he was
senior.
really bad too.
Yeah, he had a really rough game shooting wise.
I think by the time Chet Holmgren fouled out, he only had 2 points.
Mm.
So between him and Chet, they only had 13 points by the time Chet fouled out, and that just wasn't going to get it done against Arkansas. One thing I want to point out about Arkansas, though, I mean, JD Note, he had like 23 or 25 points, I think. But at one point during the game, like towards the end, he was shooting like 9 of 33. He was just bricking everything. and he just kept shooting, and I thought he was gonna shoot them out of the game, but somehow they were able to hold on. Jalen Williams, stud, who's their other stud? Moody played well as well.
They have a lot of transfers on their
Yeah,
team.
they do. They loaded up last year.
Yeah, I think Jalen Williams is the only, like, true recruit that played significant minutes in that game. The rest were all transferred. I mean, obviously, Note, this is his second year at Arkansas, but he transferred from the Jacksonville Dolphins out of the Atlantic Sun. So, I mean, really every single player on their team,
Yeah.
I can't name them all right now, but I did look it up, and they, except for Jalen Williams, they're all transfers.
Yeah, and they got the number 2 recruiting class coming in, so
Yeah.
they've got the number 2. Nate Oates in Alabama has the number 3 recruiting class, so SEC is just kinda reloading again, but,
What about who's got number 1?
I actually don't know who has the number 1 class.
No.
I just know that Arkansas and Alabama have the 2 and 3 classes right now. Another thing that happened, obviously, Sweet 16, this game was just I didn't even really watch it that much because it was, like, the least entertaining game going on at the time of the other games, but Villanova beat the honorable Michigan men, who was representing the whole Big Ten besides Purdue, but Purdue also lost. So, Villanova, just a tournament team. That's all you can really say about them. Once they get in, man, I mean, they're like a lock
Yeah.
to win a ton of games, and it's the same deal this year. I mean, they're just flat out built for the tournament. Another Final Four run for Jay Wright, and this is what I think, honestly, which is weird to say this about a team, but I think if Villanova wins it this year, which I don't think they will, but I've said that about this whole tournament with them. Like, I don't think they're going to get very far anyway, but they have. They've reached the Final Four and won their region, but I think they're pretty much a blue blood at this point if they win the tournament, which is weird to say because they're not Power 5. Like, when you think about it, they're
Yeah.
not, I guess, they're in the Big East, but I guess when I think about their school, it's like they don't even have a football team that's FBS, like Kansas and Duke, at least they've got
Yeah.
FBS, like, football programs and whatnot and other high-level sports. But Villanova, it's just basketball, but they're pretty much a blue blood. You could say Gonzaga, but to me, you've got to win at least one natty.
Well,
Be
Gonzaga doesn't even
considered
have you're talking about not having an FBS football team. Gonzaga doesn't even have a football team at all.
exactly.
So,
It's just weird to think of those kinds of teams as possible blue bloods. But if Villanova wins it this year, I think they definitely are. And even if they don't, I mean, they're just a force in college basketball right now. Even they don't have a bunch of players that are going to go to the NBA. In fact, I don't even think they have one NBA player on their team this year, but they just have great college players. Next
yeah.
year, they do have a 5-star coming in.
Who's this?
Villanova.
Villanova, yeah. Duke actually has the number 1 recruiting class next year,
Great.
for John Shire. Derek Lively, the number 1 recruit, 7'1" center. He's committed to Duke as well. So, even if Duke doesn't win the title this year, they'll be back.
Yeah.
So, it would be funny if John Shire won the title next year.
It'd be funny if
players, but
John Shire gets fired within like 3 years.
that would be hilarious.
That would be so epic for
Not
me.
going to happen, though, because Duke has turned into that school where it just doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Coaches,
guys
I
just
think.
go there to go there.
Yeah.
They call it the brotherhood. I call it the semesterhood. I mean, they're literally there for a semester and they're done. They're like, okay, I'm preparing for the draft. 7'1" center, Derek Lively, number 1 recruit, man. I wonder if he's going to be like an Embiid type or something. I haven't watched him at all, but like one thing I will say about Duke, the only player that I really like for Duke, and this is hard to say, is
Duke actually has the number 4 and 5 recruits in the nation too.
Mark, I think, is his name Mark Williams?
Derek Whitehead and Kyle Filipkowski.
So they have 2 Dereks.
Well, they're spelled differently. The Derek Lively is Dereck, and Derek Whitehead is Dariq.
That'll be slobbered on next year, Derek and Derek.
Yep.
But like I was saying, what is his name? Mark Williams down in the paint for Duke?
Theo John?
No, not him. Number 15 for Duke. He is a beast.
Mark Williams. I think you're right.
He has been terrific all tournament. He's like the centerpiece for them. I know Roach and Paulo have been playing outstanding, but Mr. Williams has been a stud, as much as I hate to say it.
Well, another thing that you have to in the tournament with some of these big men. Purdue, watching them play St. Peter's, that was such a fun game, by the way, too. St. Peter's becomes the first 15 seed to advance to the Elite Eight. But Purdue, everyone talks about Jaden Ivey. Really
Rightfully
great
so.
player. Yeah, really great player. He's going to be a top pick in the draft. He's going to be good in the NBA, too. He's got a lot of talent. But Travion Williams, I mean, they talk about Zach Edey, too. I was not impressed with Zach Edey. I actually started to hate him watching that game because he is so tall. He's literally got the Yao Ming build, and he is not that good.
No, he doesn't do anything with it. You know,
No,
like
he had 2 rebounds.
when he scores, you're like, why don't they do that every possession?
It's because he can't do it every
But
possession.
I don't understand why. Like when I watch him play, he shows the ability to do easy dunks, easy lay-ins. And let me remind you, St. Peter's does not have a big guy of the same size
No
and
one does. He's the
caliber
biggest guy in
of
the
him,
yeah.
and he still just can't dominate, and it's just weird. He is just, like, super clunky and unathletic until you see him throw it down, you're like, "Oh, maybe he is athletic," and then he's just not. So, I don't know, I mean,
Yeah. I
maybe
mean,
he'll get better. He needs to get a hell of a lot stronger too.
yeah,
So,
he just seemed like he played weak.
yeah.
Like he just like was scared and didn't want to be there. But Travion Williams, another big, I think he might have been the power forward or something for Purdue. He played amazing. He really stepped up. He actually played athletic, unlike Zach Edey. He really impressed. He missed a few buckets down the stretch there, but really, that's what you have to do if you're Purdue because he had the hot hand. He really kept them close in that game. Jaden Ivey made a huge basket down the stretch, but I just wanted to give a shout out to that guy because I thought he played good. You know, despite everyone talking about Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey on that team, Travion Williams played really well. So
Yeah. I think, one reason people will talk about Ivy is, last like 10 seconds, he hit a deep, deep three, and then he almost hit another one
yeah,
to tie
just
it, to
missed.
send it to overtime. But no, the Fighting Dugs of St. Peter's survive and advance, which is all you got to do in this tournament.
Yep.
And they play North Carolina. But let's talk about that brilliant Sweet 16 matchup between the two blue bloods of college basketball, two kings of college basketball history, UCLA and North Carolina. Great jersey matchup. First, we'll start there. Great colors in that game.
Yeah.
Great hair in that game. All tournament hair in that game.
So,
Tiger Campbell,
Mhm.
Leaky Black, Armando Baycott, all of these. Johnny Juzang's got a good cut. Just awesome hair in that game, flinging all over the place. And then also from St. Louis, I love him to death because he didn't pull Jason Tatum and go to Duke. Caleb Love dropped 30 points for the Heels against UCLA, went nuts in the second half, dropped 27, had 3 points in the first half, 27 in the second, and just would not. He's the reason why they won. Down the stretch in that game, he just would not let the Heels lose. It was crazy. I mean, he was making just about everything. And if you're UCLA, what do you say to that? There's nothing you can do about that. You played fine defense. I mean, he was shooting them from downtown.
deep
So,
threes.
there's nothing you can do about that.
Heat
And
checking the Bruins down the
Yeah.
stretch. He heat checked them like 3 times.
and it's just funny because it's funny to me because like Caleb Love, like I said, I love him to death, but he has so many games where he'll shoot those deep threes and they are just complete and utter bricks. And I watch a lot of Carolina basketball, especially here in February and March, and he's had plenty of games where those shots don't go in and he shoots those same types of shots and you're just like, Jesus, Caleb. But they went in tonight and it was kind of like his coming out party. Caleb Love is actually a fairly notable player for the media. Like a lot of media members know who he is already because he was a 5-star coming out of St. Louis and CBC. And his freshman year last year, he had a lot of flashes, but he came back, which was the right decision, obviously. And he's gotten a lot better. And he dropped 30 points and he kind of like took the media, took the nation by storm by dropping 30. And it was all because, down the stretch of that game, he just was lights out, and that kind of captures an audience.
Well, it makes you think. I brought this up with you the other day. when he was making his decision on where to go to school, he
Yep.
narrowed it down to North Carolina and his hometown school, Mizzou.
Yep.
What
I remember it was a
Yep,
win-win for me either way. I don't know if you remember
yep,
that, but
I do
me, it was
remember
like,
that.
I don't care either way. Let's go. I obviously wanted him to go to North Carolina a little bit more, but either way, it
Um,
would have benefited me.
what do you think would have happened had he committed to Mizzou? Would he have maybe saved Conzo Martin's job? Maybe taken him to the tournament this year, or would he have obviously fizzled out like most of those players that come to Mizzou do?
Personally, like I was just talking about, Caleb has plenty of games where those shots don't fall, and he's a great offensive player and a very below average defensive player. And that's why another reason why he needed to come back, because he was not a good defensive player at all. And I don't know how he would have really fit into Konzo's defensive minded scheme. Obviously, Konzo Martin has been fired, but he would have been coached under Konzo Martin. And he obviously, I wonder, maybe Xavier Pinson would have stayed, with another shooting guard, because Xavier's the point guard. Caleb Love would not have to play point guard if he would have went to Mizzou, in my opinion. I mean, I think they would have been better off if he would have, obviously. I mean, when you have a talent like that, but I don't think it would have changed a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, even this year. I don't know if they would have won a ton of games.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly good to have a recruit like that, kinda like in Michael Porter Jr., but, it is Mizzou still, so
Yeah. At the end of the day, two totally different players. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. was the number one recruit in a lot of recruiting uh, analysis. Some he was the number two, but a lot of them he was number one. And we all know how that worked out for Mizzou. Caleb Love was not number one or anything. He was a 5-star though, 5-star shooting guard. So I'm sure he ran the point. In fact, some of the players at Washington High School, they actually played against Caleb Love
Mhm.
in some, not AAU, but tournaments over the summer and whatnot. And it was funny. My friend Chase Merriman, he played against him, and he was just said he was all offense. He didn't play a lick of defense, which I was like, oh, that makes a heck of a lot more sense
Yeah, kinda like
compared to how I
LaMelo
watch him
Ball.
now. So
Yeah. That's how most players are like that are, but, I mean, he certainly had a coming out party. Sweet 16, very good games, really.
oh yeah, I mean,
That was probably the best round, honestly.
yeah, I mean, that UCLA UNC game was just a college basketball fan's dream, and because we've been talking about UNC the whole time. Obviously, I'm a huge UNC fan, but UCLA, they went on stretches where they wouldn't miss, especially at the beginning of the game. I'm like, how in the world are we gonna beat these guys? Juzang and Bernard and them were like all 3 for 3 to start the game and whatnot, and I was like, oh my goodness. And Jaquez and stuff like that, that he played well as well. The only person that I think, not to take a shot at this guy, he's catching a stray here from me, but Riley, I can't remember his first name. Riley, the center
Cody
for
Riley.
Cody Riley, the
Yeah.
center for UCLA. Not very good. Still very much developing, definitely a college player, but it just made me think if they had a stud at center, UCLA probably would have won the title this year. I mean, that was like their missing piece for me. Like when I was just watching that game. Like if
Yeah.
they had Armando Bacot or Mark Williams or something like that, I mean, they probably would have won the title this year.
Yeah, I mean, if they would've won that game against UCLA, probably a lock for the Final Four. Or against, UNC.
UNC, yeah.
Yeah. Um, they played well. There's nothing you could do. Just Caleb Love just played out of his mind in the last
Yeah,
5. I
that's
mean,
what
it was a back and forth game the entire
yeah,
game. No one really pulled away at all until the very end when Caleb Love just started playing out of his mind. So there's really nothing that you could say we could have done better if you were UC. I mean, yeah, sure, you could have made more shots, but
yeah,
really it's college basketball, so what could you ask for?
yeah.
You know,
You could
whereas
kinda
us, like Arizona, like, what could you have done better? Oh, maybe, got more quality shots, maybe try
yeah,
to draw more fouls because the defense that they were playing, very vulnerable for that. But, UCLA, there's not much else you could have done.
yeah.
UNC just played a perfect game.
I could kinda see it on Mick Cronin's face too after the game. He was like, you just couldn't really say anything. Like, there was nothing to be disappointed about in that the way that they lost because, like, you just got beat by a hell of a player down the stretch, and that was it,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
can't do anything about it, so
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
ugh,
say that obviously a little biased, but that was probably my favorite game in
yeah,
the Sweet
well,
16. Also, the Gonzaga one was interesting,
yeah,
but
that was also the first game and the last game, so both of
yeah.
them were fun. Villanova looks like they're gonna match up with Kansas. I think Kansas is pulling away against Miami
Yeah.
here. That's gonna be an interesting matchup. So we're either gonna have Kansas or Villanova in the championship. Kinda boring if you ask me, but, both those schools have been there many, many times. And then on the other side, you're either gonna have Duke match up with either UNC, which would obviously capture all the media headlines this week,
Yeah, also
or
the first time that they've ever met in the tournament, which is incredible.
yeah. Well, I mean, they always try to break them up, I think,
Yeah, I
so
know,
they'd
but
have
it's
to meet in the
still
Final Four.
crazy to think about when you've had Coach K all these years and you've had Dean Smith and Roy Williams, coaching these teams. It's like, how did this never happen before?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Uh, so, yeah, that could obviously happen, or you could have the option of Duke playing a 15 seed in the Final Four.
Yep.
That would be the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen. There's obviously been a few 15 seeds to reach the Sweet 16, none other than St. Peter's this year to reach the Elite Eight. But if they were to go on and just go to the Final Four, there's nothing that you could that's a perfect run.
Yeah.
That's the greatest Cinderella run of all time, and it probably will never be topped.
It's just so astonishing to me still when because every single day I see a little bit more and more about St. Peter's and their school. Their school is their enrollment is about 2,100, and their basketball court, like we said last week, looks like a high school gymnasium. In fact, there's high school gymnasiums that are nicer than St. Peter's court and facility. And they showed their Sweet 16 send off, and it was just pretty much all media members and nobody from the actual school sending them off. And I looked a little closer and I saw that their pullover jackets didn't even have their logo on it. It was just an Adidas pullover jacket. I don't know if you saw that, but I
I
thought
didn't
that
see
was astonishing too. Is like these kids don't even have their logo on their pullover jacket. It's just the Adidas logo.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just their
It's
funding.
wild that they're
It's
going
wild.
on. They beat Kentucky, they beat Purdue, Murray State, obviously, that's not like a big name school or anything, but they had 31 wins this year.
Yeah.
Very quality. I mean, and if they were to beat North Carolina in the same run after beating Kentucky and
Yeah.
Purdue, oh my
I mean,
goodness. It's just shocking to have I mean, this is basically like, it's not even it's barely a D1 team. Like, they were holding on to their D1 status.
yeah.
That's how low they were on the totem pole, and here they are. They're gonna be one of the last 5 teams left.
Yep.
Nothing that's wild. That's crazy.
It's incredible. It's a banner that probably will be the biggest banner in that gym forever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well,
You should
if they
see their
keep winning,
banners in
then
that gym too. It's weird. It's just like NIT appearance, NCAA appearance like a long time ago. I think it was like 2011
oh,
actually.
yeah. I mean, wherever they lose, that banner is gonna be hanging there for a long time. And they put their school on the map easily. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for that game. That's gonna be fun. Because
Yeah.
either way, I mean, you're gonna get a good matchup. You're either gonna or a good storyline. Either way, whoever wins that game.
Yeah.
So
I was pretty normal and using social media to like interact with other North Carolina fans. And the theme is, and this was a frequently asked question around everybody, is like, we win this game, how long are we even going to celebrate for? Because trust me, as a North Carolina fan, one, seeing Duke just advance to the Final Four ruined my night, a big chunk of it last night. I just had this feeling in my stomach like, oh my God, they're really going back. And then two, if you're a North Carolina fan, when it's Duke week, it's just like a week-long thing that you're thinking about. Usually, obviously, it comes on Saturday when they play. even in the ACC tournament, it's usually the finale when they play each other. It's usually always on a Saturday. It's always on like this weekend. It'll be on a Saturday too if they play. It's just a week-long feeling of like, oh my God, you're preparing yourself as a fan because it's like just one giant ball of hate in a game. And you're also trying to enjoy the tournament run and your tournament success. It can be a stressful week. And so it's like, if we even make it to the Final Four, incredible run by Hubert Davis. I love Hubert. I love this team for North Carolina. I was saying on Twitter the other day, I was like, even the 2017 national title team and the Hansborough teams and the Kendall Marshall teams and stuff like that, this team has just some of the best personalities on it. And I've just really become really proud of the players and what they've been able to accomplish because there's been some times for North Carolina where they've really struggled. And to see them here, it's actually pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't want to like overlook it yet because you're like, oh, we got to play 15 seed. We're easily in the Final Four, but you don't want to do that. That's your biggest mistake if you do that. So,
in fact, Hubert Davis, he said it best, and I'm not overlooking St. Peter's. I am amped up for this game, but I also know how stressful it's going to be. Because St. Peter's, at the end of the day, this is what Coach Hubert Davis said. He goes, at the end of the day, St. Peter's has beaten two teams that North Carolina has lost to by like 20 points, 29 points, I think it was, to Duke. Or not to Duke, Kentucky. They've beaten both Kentucky and Purdue, and North Carolina both got hammered by both of those teams. And St. Peter's has taken care of both of them. So there you go. That's all you need to know. So I feel like Coach Hubert Davis does have the boys' minds in the right places when he says stuff like that, and makes me feel a little bit better. But yeah, I'm definitely not overlooking the Cox.
Yeah, exactly. You can't stop the Cox. But at the same time, like in the after the game, the Purdue game, they were interviewing the coach Shaheen Holloway. This might be the greatest display of coaching ever. I mean, because they have most of these guys weren't even recruited really out of high school.
Yeah, none of their players on their team were ranked.
Yeah.
So that's all you need to really know.
And he's out here beating teams like Kentucky, Purdue, Murray State. They have like stars on their team. And obviously, Jay Knight, he's going to be a top 5 pick maybe in the draft this year.
Yeah.
Just went out and beat his team.
Yeah. I think containing Zach Edey too.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the size, and they did it. So
yeah, I saw someone say that like watching the St. Peter's defense is just straight up inspirational. And it really was. I mean, just watching them, it was just a phenomenal display of coaching. And in the post-game interview, they asked him like how he feels. He's like, well, what are they going to say now? They're saying we couldn't beat Kentucky, couldn't make it to the Sweet 16. No 15 seeds ever been to the Elite Eight. What are they going to say now? And then he also added that my guys just go out and play basketball and have fun. And ultimately, I think that's really just the key to winning.
Yeah.
It's not – I mean, obviously, you have to put in, the extra hours. You have to put in the work. But ultimately, when it comes game day, the goal is just to go out and play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can prepare all you want, but if you don't go out and play basketball and you don't have fun, you're not going to win.
Yeah. Well, if they don't have fun, they're knocked out in the first round by Kentucky.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is when you have such a talent deficit. So, I mean,
and I think that also benefits them because all these other teams, they're playing a 15 seed. Guess who has the pressure? Not the 15 seed.
Yeah.
So even North Carolina, they're coming in. They got it. They win one more game, and they have a matchup with Duke in the Final Four.
Yeah.
And, they've been beaten all – North Carolina's had their fair share of great wins this tournament too. But they obviously have the pressure. If they lose to a 15 seed, the Duke fans making fun of them all week.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I don't even want to think about that. But, it's weird to think about this. Think about this. So in the Elite Eight of the East region, we have North Carolina, who's the number 8 seed, against St. Peter's, who's the 15 seed. North Carolina alone reaching it as the 8 seed. The fact that there's a 7 seed differential between the 8 seed and the 15 seed in that game is just incredible. Like that is the fact that North Carolina made it as an 8 seed. That's one hell of a story. And then you also have a 15 seed making it. It's just two great runs to think about.
Yeah.
And, we talked about that's the death region.
Yep.
And North
Exactly.
Carolina's almost made it out of the death region. St. Peter's, out of anybody, has almost made it out of the death region. And
Yeah.
just wild.
Well, we were talking about that, like, this region has the most title contenders, like the ones that you could see winning the title. They had Kentucky, they had Baylor, obviously the 1 and 2 seeds. They had Purdue. We could see them winning the title. They had UCLA, who some people picked to win the title. They even had Texas, who I would think was a team that could go on a run. They had those 5 teams, and here we are in the regional final, and none of those 5 teams are in this game.
Yeah. Also,
Incredible.
multiple honorable losses, though, by both Baylor and
UCLA.
UCLA.
I even think Purdue was an honorable loss,
Yeah.
honestly, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like these teams played bad. They just got outplayed.
Yeah.
Really. It's just a story of 2 great runs meeting up. What's the old saying? Like when a train meets a what's it called? I'm blanking on this phrase right now. But it's basically like when 2 trains meet each other, which one wins? That's basically
it's an unstoppable force versus an immovable object.
Yes.
That's what we're looking at right here.
Mhm.
You can decide who's who in that matchup, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. I'll be rooting for St. Peter's. Obviously, Kim will be rooting for UNC, but regardless, looks like Miami's pretty much done here. They're on by 20 with 4 minutes left. But so it'll be Kansas, Villanova, Duke, and if it is North Carolina, that's kind of a boring Final Four because like those teams are always there. If it is St. Peter's, that could be a really, really fun story, though.
Yeah, unless they just got absolutely obliterated by Duke, which is the way Duke's playing on offense could definitely happen to either one, North Carolina or St. Peter's. We've seen it happen in North Carolina before. And like I said last week, North Carolina's due for their bad shooting, horrible looking loss where those are the games where people start calling for Coach Hubert Davis's head again. And it's just wild how North Carolina fans will do that after one game and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
obviously we both don't want Duke to win. I think Kansas is not the team that's going to stop. If Kansas makes it to the championship and they play Duke, just go ahead and make Duke a lock.
Nail it in.
Yeah, Kansas will not be. They just simply don't match up well against Duke. Villanova, on the other hand, I think could be the team that could stop Coach K from getting that title. They have a lot of veterans. Colin Gillespie, I know he's been there for like 5 years. He's a stud. They got Jay Wright, who's obviously a very good coach, very good tournament coach. They just got the experience. They got the defense. They held Houston to 44 points yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think they got the offense too.
Got,
what's his name? Jermaine Samuels in the paint. He just won the South Region MVP. So
that'll be a good defensive matchup. Again, Villanova will have to play this because, we talk about Kansas's offense. Their defense is outstanding this year.
Kansas?
Yes, I think their defense in this tournament has been awesome. Even against who'd they play the other night? They played
Providence.
Yeah, Providence. Their defense against Providence was wild. There was like a few minutes left in the first half. Granted, they gave up a little bit of a run, but it was like Providence had like 16 points with like 4 or 5 minutes left to go in the first half.
That's true. It was Providence's lowest scoring half in tournament history. I actually fell asleep during that game because it was so boring. But I kind of dozed off for like 5 minutes. But yeah, regardless, college basketball, this is the best time of the year if you're a college basketball fan. Can't wait. Final Four next weekend. Should be recording after that when the championship matchup is set. So the Duke UNC game could be complete.
Yeah.
By next time we record. So
one final thing I'll add to college basketball, and then we'll talk about actually a little bit. It'll be embedded into something else we get into here in a second. But Kansas's Lightfoot, you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I just saw him on the screen. White guy that just jammed it, number 44. Looks like one of those basketball players from like the 1940s, where
Really?
Yeah,
I
like,
was
if
thinking
you
he looked more like a John Stockton
I
type of
just
guy.
think he looks like one of those basketball players from the 1940s with, like, those really short shorts, like the really pale white guys in the pictures from the old NBA days or whatever, and, like, his face matches up with, like, the old basketball and even baseball looking cards, like, his face does. If you look at it, you kinda just, like, look at it and you're like, "Is this guy from a baseball card and a pack of Cracker Jacks from 1940?" It's really weird looking.
Like a Cy Young guy.
Yeah, it's just weird to me. It came to me like a few rounds ago. I'm like, "Who is this guy? Is he reincarnated?" He's tall, and I think he only has, like, 6 points right now, but whatever.
They're winning by 20, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Alright. While we're on the subject, you wanna go ahead and talk about, some Mizzou news that
Yeah.
happened this week? So, Mizzou obviously fired Cuonzo Martin a few weeks ago, and they have just hired a new head coach a few days ago, actually. Dennis Gates is his name.
Yep.
He is a black head coach from Cleveland State,
Yes.
the Vikings or whatever they're called, the
Yeah.
something there. I know their logo's a Viking. Um, I don't
Green team.
Yeah. They've been in the tournament a few times the last few years. They've been at the top of the Horizon Conference the past few years as well. I don't know how to feel about this. I feel like we could have shot a little higher, but at the same time, it's not a bad hire.
No, he's already getting to work, and I'll move into that here in a second, but it's pretty typical move, I think, from Miss Reed Francois, Mizzou's new AD, and, President Kim Chow or whatever the hell you say his name. Pretty typical hire. Obviously, we were looking at maybe Rick Pitino or Sean Miller hopes.
Well,
Even Scott Drew, there was, like, these little murmurs going out around, but none of that came to fruition. But Dennis Gates, the Gates, welcome to the Gates of Gates. I
yep.
saw that meme already circulating throughout Mizzou media. I don't mind him. I will say that.
Yeah.
I think it was Wednesday, if I'm correct, was his opening press conference, and, me and my dad watched it, and he said all the things that you wanna hear from a coach when he comes in. Nothing too crazy there. He has a pretty big family, but the pushing all the family stuff inside into the more important side, the basketball side, he has deep Chicago connections, and that's very important in recruiting. In fact, I saw D Wade posted a picture
Yeah.
of Dennis Gates, and him getting the Mizzou job, and just supporting him and stuff because he's a Chicago guy as well, which makes me a little excited. He's been able to recruit supposedly. He took Cleveland State to the tournament a couple times. Apparently, the program was way down. And in
Yeah.
fact, so here's just a little Coach Gates background. He was the assistant at Florida State for like 9 or 11 years. I can't remember. And his mentors, the coaches, I'm blanking on Florida State's head man. He's a really good coach. But anyway, telling him, if you take this Cleveland State job, it's pretty much career suicide in terms of head coaching. And he took it anyway. He bet on himself, and he took Cleveland State to the tournament a few times, and now he has landed a Power 5 job with Mizzou. So hats off to him for that. And if he can continue to recruit, Chicago and stuff, that's really going to help. He needs to lock down Missouri. There's a guy, in fact, playing for Kansas right now who's a sophomore from Columbia. You can't let those guys get away. And he's got to lock down Missouri first. But man, if he can get some inner city kids
Is it
from
Braun that you're
Chicago,
talking about?
huh?
Braun that you're talking about? The Kansas guy?
He's one of them.
Yeah. His
His
brother went to Mizzou.
Yeah, his brother did for a little bit. Now he's at Santa Clara. But I wasn't talking about him. I don't even know him. I just heard them talking about him, and he was scoring. But yeah, so hopefully he can recruit. Already signed the number 1 JUCO recruit, and he signed another guy yesterday. I can't remember his name. This is bad radio that we can't remember any of their names. But
Oh, I didn't even hear about
yeah,
it.
he signed yesterday. So he's already got 2 guys. One, I guess, technically is a transfer, and one he was the number 1 JUCO and his last name is said he's French, Diarra or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see how that works out.
I'm looking at the Cleveland State history right now. They've been around for 50 seasons. The last 3 seasons, they have been led by head coach Dennis Gates. In his first season, he went 11-21 in the Horizon League. That's awful. But it's also first year. You're not, that was before he recruited anybody.
Yep.
And so what it appears here is that he's a great, fantastic recruiter because the very next year after going 11-21, he turned it around, goes 19-8, and has a berth in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Obviously, they lost first round as a 15 seed. And then this year they went 20-11, won the Horizon League.
NIT, I thought, this year.
They won the regular season Horizon League conference. So that is an automatic berth in the NIT. And yeah, so that is really inspiring to see that they went from 11-21 to 19-8.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he can do something, because recruiting is the name of the game. Obviously, he'll have some help with the transfer portal, as that's the new name of the game in recruiting. But, he's got to find a way to keep Brazil, in my opinion. Now, Brazil, if you don't know anything about him, what?
I think he will. Apparently, Brazil, when he was looking to transfer, he had interest from Cleveland State.
No, he was recruited by Cleveland State.
Okay.
So that might help. But that was actually Brazil didn't have very many offers, which is interesting because he's an athletic specimen. But Cleveland State was one of them, along with Mizzou. And I just think he could be an NBA prospect by the time it's his junior or senior year. Obviously not right now. In fact, this year he was only like 6 points per game. But, he has the type of body and skill set that could develop into an NBA guy. Pickett is another. Javon Pickett is a senior this year from Mizzou, and he's also entered the portal. And I don't know if they're going to be able to keep him. If they can find a way to get Kobe Brown to say, "Yeah, I'll do another year with the free COVID year," that would really help. I don't know if he will.
Senior?
Yes. So he can graduate and be done, but he has another COVID year if he wants. And so yeah, another Missouri guy, or at least in the state of Missouri, Slew's Jordan Nesbitt is in the portal. So maybe I don't know if he has any connections to Jordan Nesbitt, but that would be nice. Xavier Pinson, former Missouri point guard, we talked about him earlier in the show. He is in the portal once again and is considering Mizzou again, and I would love to have him back. I've already really missed him. He's a Chicago guy. He went to Simeon, which is one of the best high school basketball schools in the country. It would be really nice to have him back. X has turned into a playmaker over the past few years.
And the reason he did leave Mizzou was not because of Mizzou. It was because of Konzo Martin.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he publicly said that.
Yeah.
That he didn't like the way that he was coaching or treating him, something like that. So with the new coach with Chicago roots, maybe opening that door back up to Mizzou, that would be pretty epic.
Yeah. And one more thing to note, this was fun for me. Mizzou, I watched this after the North Carolina game last Saturday against Baylor. They had their spring game a little early, but it was fine with me. Watched it on my phone, but they had their spring game last week, and winners got ribeyes of the spring game, and the losers got hot dogs. And it was funny because they were tied 34-34, so Coach Drink made the other team go for 2 because he said, we don't have enough ribeyes for everybody. So somebody had to win, and Tyler Makin's team didn't get the 2-point conversion, so they lost 35-34. Sorry, they weren't tied yet, but if they would have kicked the extra point, they would have been tied.
Yeah.
But Coach Drink made him go for 2. It was just fun. I love football, so it was nice to see Missouri back in action. They have some playmakers on offense.
Yeah.
But their defense needs a hell of a lot of work. But I think we'll get into, maybe some preseason college football talk in a few weeks. But
I found it interesting that the losers had hot dogs, because that's not even that bad of an item, unless they made them eat raw hot dogs, they really opened up a package, just slapped it on the bun. It's like, here you go. That would be disgusting. That would be an actual punishment. But the ribeyes is a nice touch, for the winner. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is, and you're eating, there's probably a damn good ribeye too.
Oh yeah, I bet probably
compared
cooked by
to the
best
hot
chefs.
dog, I think it probably was a bit of a difference.
Oh yeah,
In fact, Washington, prior to Washington, Ryan Horskamp, he was on the winning side, so he got a ribeye.
Nice.
Shout out, Ryan.
Shout out.
So, yeah, fun week for Mizzou sports.
Oh, yeah.
Fun times ahead for Mizzou sports. New coach and drinks. Recruits are starting to grow up a little bit. Luther Burden scored a touchdown. Let's just
So excited for that guy.
yeah.
Absolute beast. I think he might help turn this program around, really.
Yeah.
Such a huge pickup for Coach Drink.
We can either do
tough scene of the week.
Yeah,
I
I think we'll do tough scene of the week, and then we'll get into some quick NFL talk, and that will pretty much wrap up the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, tough scene of the week. Who wants to go first?
I see you have a lot, so
Okay, I will. This one's kind of funny. This just happened a few days ago. So my tough scene of the week was that Mile High Stadium in Denver, Colorado.
Broncos Stadium.
The Broncos Stadium caught on fire in the seating section, the upper seats and close to the suites where, rich people sit and other season ticket holders sit. So the stadium was on fire, and you could see the smoke from Denver. Lots of people were taking pictures of it. Very crazy kind of a scene, to see that a whole stadium was on fire. Obviously, the whole thing wasn't on fire, but the way the smoke was rising above the stadium, it looked like it. And so, but people are saying that this is why Pete Carroll didn't let Russ cook, is because of situations like this. Russ gets to start cooking, and boom, stadium's on fire. So yeah, but it was they were able to control it. Nobody was hurt.
That's not the only stadium that caught on fire either. Last night, the Raptors, a speaker in the Toronto Raptors home stadium caught on fire as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, stadium fires are bad.
Did they have to evacuate?
They suspended the game. They paused the game, got all the players off the court. I think they were trying to get people off, but it was a small fire. It got put out really quickly, but the game did get suspended.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, one thing interesting about the Broncos fire was that it actually burned for a while. Like the seats were just burning away, and until they were able to put it out. So at least, in the Raptors situation, they were able to get to it fast. I saw somebody on Twitter say that they should just replace all those burnt seats with new Russell Wilson orange seats and replace the old ones with those to kind of just bring him in as the new quarterback. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'm still waiting for the color change or the uniform change.
Jersey change. The colors are fine. They just need, if they go with the dark blue, the dark navy blue with the orange, I think we're not big fans of. If they can mix in the baby blue with the bright orange like they do sometimes, that's what we're looking for. Just fans of awesome jerseys.
Kind of with the throwback look.
Yeah.
My tough scene is actually myself. I had a major tough scene this week. I actually locked my keys in the trunk of my car, and I don't have a set of spare keys. So at that point, I've pretty much screwed myself out of anything. Like we had to call the dealership where I got my car from, so they can make a new key that didn't have a click or anything. So I had to stick it in the door, unlock it, but then I can't get into my trunk. Like the key didn't work to get into my trunk, and my seats aren't pull down either. So we had to rip off the cloth parts of the seats and unscrew a bunch of stuff to get to the trunk, and then had to use a metal wire to fish the keys out of the trunk. It was a journey that took multiple hours and had me on edge for a very long time. But I will say this is something I will probably never do again.
Yeah. That's interesting that your car doesn't, in my car, it's a 2012, so it's 10 years old now, but it has a button in the inside of the car that pops the trunk.
Well, yeah, I have one of those buttons. It's like a lever thing, but it's disconnected from the trunk, so it doesn't work. When you pull the lever thing.
It doesn't work anymore like it used to work?
Yeah, it used to work. It disconnected over some time, and so
your car's not that old.
Yeah. So the communication, I guess, just disconnected over time, and it doesn't work anymore. But my seats actually do pop down, But the unfortunate part about that is the button to pop down the seats is in the trunk.
Oh.
So there's no way to get to the it was just a journey. It was a it
That's
was
interesting.
and
That's
it
interesting
happened
that you didn't have a spare key.
I never got one, and I just have been too lazy to go out and get a new one made. So, we have one now, obviously. Um, but it was a tough scene to say the least, and it actually to add insult to injury, it happened the morning after the Arizona loss. So I was up all that night right after Arizona got destroyed, and the very next morning I wake up, go to my practice, and then I go out and I lock my keys in my trunk, and it was just it added insult to injury, made it worse.
Yeah.
Huge tough
It
scene.
it was just a rough stretch for you for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Very rough 24 hours.
yeah, I actually have another. I didn't write this one down, but I finally, if you've been keeping up at all, I sprained my wrist a few weeks ago. Actually, it's been over a month now. And it's actually been getting a lot better. And so I went to play basketball with some of my buddies the other day, and I was driving into the lane and I stepped on one of my buddy's foot and I rolled my ankle. Ankle completely swelled up, and it still hurts like a you know what right now. So it's really sore. So it just seems like I just need to like stay inside for like 5 months so for my body to just completely heal before I can ever do anything again. It seems like because every single time I do something athletic, it seems I just like get hurt, like body of glass right now.
Oh, yeah.
But wrist is actually doing a lot better, but ankle sore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Big tough scenes. Huge tough scenes this week.
One other little thing about the NCAA.
Oh.
So we have an NCAA tournament tweet of the week from our. We've been following this guy Barry McCockiner for years. He said this, and the reason why I included this, just to finish everything up with college basketball, is just so true.
It is the truest thing ever.
Gonzaga wins 30 games every year playing in a conference against future Chuck E. Cheese managers, and they get a 1 seed, then inevitably shit their pants in the NCAA tournament and lose. And that is just the truest thing. It happens every single year. And it's
Yeah.
true. They put, and crazy thing about it is this was probably the best year the West Coast Conference has had in years. And Gonzaga still just
Rolled through
can't
it.
do anything
Yeah.
after that. So
I
true
I
tweet.
actually don't think they won 30 games this year, though. I think they won, like, 26 or something. I'll look it up, though.
I don't know. I think with the West Coast tournament, they did get to 30 plus the.
No, because I think they went into the tournament with, like, 26 wins.
They had 28 when they entered the tournament, which would have put them right at 30 because they lost in the Sweet 16.
They're 28-4 overall.
There you go.
Not 30 wins. Had they made it to the Final Four, they would have had 30 wins. But
Yeah. Okay. I guess I just remember seeing 28 when they lost. But yeah. All right. So we'll jump right into NFL, and that will be pretty much our show. But some major stuff did happen. Let's just say that.
The NFL never takes a break. It always throughout this entire offseason, it's just every single week there's a new thing that happens, and it's so wild. This might be the greatest offseason of all time.
Yeah.
It's so consistently good.
I feel like the past couple of off seasons has been super fun too. But each new off season overshadows the last
better.
one. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like you just forget all the crazy moves that happened last year because there's so much crazy stuff going on this year. I think the big reason why it feels so much crazier this year too is the quarterback carousel has been insane. We never see this much quarterback movement,
Yeah.
but we're seeing a lot of it this year. But we'll just lead it off here. Tyreek Hill signs with the Dolphins. Well, he was traded to the Dolphins, but then signed a 4-year, $120 million deal. So that's $30 million per year, which came out of nowhere. By the way, this just happened during the middle of the week, and
It's like a Tuesday morning.
developed really fast. It was just like all of a sudden early in the morning, it was just like Tyreek Hill, and his agent are seeking a trade. The Chiefs are going to let him seek a trade, even though they were going to make him one of the highest paid wide receivers. That's what it said. And then, so he seeked a trade, and boom, he did become the highest paid receiver. And it was between the Jets of all teams and the Dolphins. he said that he was highly considering the Jets, and then as soon as he signed with the Dolphins, he said he was never considering the
Yeah.
Jets, which is smart because they are AFC East rivals now, so that makes sense.
Why
But
in the world would you? Why, if you were in your right mind, why would you ever consider the Jets?
I don't
Too.
know. Besides the fact that it's the Big Apple, maybe, and that they were probably going to give him a ton of money, play with a young quarterback, but
Why would you not go
I
to
don't know.
Miami though? That's
I don't know. It's the same. I know it's
Florida.
the same
No income
situation.
taxes. Yeah.
It's Miami. It's you have
New
to
head
play.
coach.
It's I think the ultimate decision or the deciding factor in all this obviously was he's actually from Miami area, so that probably played a huge factor in getting to go home.
And you're
So
getting paid $120 million to go play in Miami.
yeah.
But I saw a report. I don't know if this is true or not. The dude had a verified check. I don't know if he was trolling or not, but apparently Tyreek Hill said that Mike McDaniel, the new head coach of the Dolphins, sounds like Shrek.
Yes, I saw that as well.
I had no idea if that was fake or not, but
I
that
don't
was
think he sounds like Shrek.
I don't
I've
think he
listened
does
to him
either.
talk multiple times now.
Yeah.
So I don't know where
Like donkey. That
maybe
that doesn't
his
sound like Mike.
hearing this is a possibility. His hearing perception might just be so messed up after the years with Patrick Mahomes and the loud stadium of Arrowhead, between Kermit and the highest decibel stadium in the world at times, maybe that's just really messed up his hearing to where now Mike McDaniel, just a super high guy, sounds like Shrek.
True. It could be his hearing deception might just be messed up.
So, but then the Chiefs went and quickly got one of Luke's former players, the Packers' former players, MVS, Marquez, Valdez, Scantling to replace speed with speed, fight fire with fire a little bit, because that's pretty much all MVS is too. Is just a speed guy.
Yeah.
So lots of Tua memes from this, especially after Hill said Tua is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL during his press conference. Which by some metrics, I actually remember seeing this. He actually is but it's because he throws a ton of just slants and check down routes to where that really
The Jalen model.
pumps up his completion percentage, which makes your accuracy look super good. But I've watched a bunch of Tua NFL games firsthand, and I don't think he's the most accurate quarterback in the league. So
Yeah, I don't remember actually what the Dolphins ended up trading for Tyreek Hill.
it was not bad. I think it was
It's like 5 picks or something.
I think it was a first. I know it was a first and maybe a second, and then I think it was pretty similar to the Devontae Adams tree, but also a little bit better.
Well, I know that they got more picks.
So
Let's see.
one thing about that is Tyreek Hill.
Dolphins receive wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Chiefs receive 2022 first round pick, which is 29th overall.
Not great, but
How
still
did
they'll
the
have pretty
Dolphins
close
what pick
picks.
is that? That's not the
I think
Dolphins
they'll
pick.
have pick number 28 and then pick number 29.
Well, who's pick number 20? Is that who is that? Is it the 49ers? Did the Dolphins have the 49ers pick this year?
I guess so.
Because that's got to be the 49ers 29.
Yeah.
So they received that pick. They received 2022 second round pick, which is number 50 overall. They received the 4th round pick, and then next year a 4th round pick and a 6th round pick.
Not bad, really, when you get all that and you get to just replace it with MVS. Obviously, MVS not the same caliber, but he might be able to develop into one because we've seen, this doesn't really get talked about as much as they just draft and trade for good talent, but they've really been good at developing wide receivers, it seems like, over the past few years.
Yeah.
So maybe they can help MVS a little bit.
And also, the Chiefs now have 2 first round picks, 2 second round picks in this year's draft. And they still have Patrick Mahomes. They still have Chris Jones. They still have Travis Kelce.
If they can draft young defensive guys that can pan out, like Nick Bolton, because then, when you draft them young and stuff, you only have to pay their rookie contract, which turns out isn't that much, especially in the later round or in the back end of the first round, and not nearly as much as the front end of the first round. So, that would really help out. But I could also see them going after the same guy I think the Packers might go after in Jameson Williams as well. So, but they also, so maybe they might steer clear of that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Some other news in the NFL. Immediately, like literally right after we got done with our show, it was like 2 minutes after we were done, we saw that Matt Ryan had been traded to the Indianapolis Colts
Yep.
for a third-round pick. And that's it. That's a great trade for the Colts, who Matt Ryan will become, assuming he starts, will become like the 7th QB in like the last 7 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, for the Colts, wild. I mean, that's literally a Brown scenario right there.
Yeah,
Ever since
and they've been good. They've been
Yeah.
solid team. It's a different situation
Yeah,
than the Browns, but it's still pretty similar.
it's almost like the Colts could be a dynasty if Andrew Luck just never retired.
Yeah. I miss him too. He was so good. He was fun to watch. That's why I miss him. That's why I fear when Aaron Rodgers leaves. It's not that he plays for my team. I'm just gonna miss watching him.
Yeah,
But luckily, it looks like he'll be sticking around a little longer.
yeah, and that's probably good. So the Colts trade for Matt Ryan, veteran, MVP, former Super Bowl quarterback. Probably should have won the Super Bowl. We're not going to talk about that though.
Nope.
And that's a great pickup, especially for only a third-round pick. Because in the Carson Wentz package, they got 2 third-round picks and a 4th-round pick, I do believe.
Yeah.
So they basically replaced Carson Wentz with Matt Ryan, but they also gained an extra 3rd and 4th-round pick. That's phenomenal work by the Colts GM, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of pissed if I was a football team fan, knowing that we could have had Matt Ryan for only a third.
I don't think it's the end of the world for the football, or not the football team, the Commanders. But
Yeah, the Commanders.
one thing I will point out with the Colts is they need to take this opportunity to go get some young talent in the draft on the offensive side of the ball. In my opinion, wide receiver or a play-making tight end, one of the two. And if you can't do that, then you better find a stud on defense, which they've been good at doing, but they really need some offensive help. Pittman and Taylor can't do it alone, man. And they've built an awesome offensive line. They've got to find a way to maintain that offensive line because they got hurt a little bit last year too, which didn't help Wentz. Somehow Taylor just pushed through it a little bit, but they need to find a way to keep those guys healthy. But yeah, they just need a few more offensive weapons, and that might be able to push them over a little bit.
Jack Doyle, their tight end for the past few seasons, just retired as well. So they have that open position. I think that is probably their biggest need, although I don't think there's a lot of slam dunk tight ends.
No, there isn't.
Like last year was Kyle Pitts, but
maybe, they just need to really focus on scouting that. And they've got a little bit more time, before the draft. So maybe they can find something. Like you just said, there's not a slam dunk tight end unless we're just blanking on them right now. But I don't think there is. And so maybe they could find somebody in like the 2nd or 3rd round. But that also means, the less fantastic tight ends there are, the more teams will also target tight end in those 2nd and 3rd rounds because they're like, okay, we got to find one and take it. So we'll see about that. One thing I left out just out of the Dolphins thing is they also signed Teron Armstead, who's a beast tackle from the Saints, and that's going to help Tua out. So that just benefits Tua, Tyreek Hill, Waddle, whatever, the run game, if they ever get a run game. So
yeah, big, obviously, offensive line's a huge piece. Back to the Matt Ryan thing. The Falcons immediately replaced Matt Ryan with Marcus Mariota.
Yep. Stabilization until they find a quarterback. So
they're obviously not trying to compete next year, which makes sense because they don't have the team.
Yeah.
Arthur Smith, I think, will still try to win. He seemed to have a pretty good season this year with the team that he had. So the Falcons are trying to load up on picks here. Maybe try and rebuild, get something going. Obviously, they're not going to have Calvin Ridley this year either, for other reasons.
Unless he appeals. We talked about that.
And he wins the appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's about it with the Falcons. They suck this year. Matt Ryan to the Colts. Colts obviously have a new rejuvenation.
Yeah, kind of a Vic-like quarterback, though, with Mariota. Fast guy. Really fast, actually. I don't know how fast he is now. It's been a few years since he really, turned on the wheels or something. But the Raiders would use him in certain packages last year, and they would just be blatantly obvious about it. They would just put him in to run the ball, and he would just run the ball.
Yep.
Take out Carr and just let him go. So, which is funny. So we'll see what they do there. I could see them drafting a quarterback. So we'll see what they do.
Yep. Deshaun Watson officially signs with the Browns. It seems like his trial is continuing to go well. He actually appeared with the media for one of the first times in years. He had a formal press conference, and he was talking about the case a little bit, and he continued to claim his innocence, which he's kind of easy to believe because I kind of see him as the guy he would never do that. But obviously we got to go through the law here. Hopefully everything is fine. Second grand jury didn't indict him either.
Yep.
Good news for him. But in that press conference that we're talking about, he actually said something that's kind of ironic.
Yep.
He said due to his circumstances, he
said he was very hands-on while he was in the city of Houston, inside the community.
Yeah. Very hands-on guy.
Yeah.
Which could be taken in multiple ways. Probably not something he should have said at all.
Just got to have some situational awareness there. But it's a funny thing now, looking at it right now. So,
that's like Big Ben, saying like, well, they told me I could retire and I just don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
It's like something like that.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Even though I don't think he actually said that, but it would be like him saying that.
Yeah.
Or it'd be like Aaron Hernandez being like, well, I just have the killer instinct in me or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just something that you probably shouldn't say if you're, undergoing, what's it called? A trial right now for, sexual things going down in a massage parlor. So
yeah.
Very hands-on.
It was just, I just couldn't believe it. It was just one of those things I thought was made up, but it was real. So, yeah. And this one's more for me. Most importantly, of all the things that happened in free agency over the past week or so, my sweet prince, famous Jameis, the GOAT Winston, re-signed with the Saints, which allowed me a big sigh of relief. I can't wait to watch Jameis down in NOLA again next year. It was so fun. They were like, what were they, like 6 or 7-1 when he was the starter last year, and including their unbelievable domination of the Packers in the first game of the season. I bet you remember that.
5-touchdown game from Jameis.
Yeah. And he was just dorky last year too. So I miss him. I can't wait to watch him again. It seems like he's ahead of schedule with his ACL tear. So I'm excited. I've already seen multiple random workout videos from Jameis. So those are the best. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I have his jersey, so I get to wear that again next year. So
yeah.
Another thing, this is a little bit different. I forgot to mention this last week with the Juju thing. I have this thing going on with real NFL jerseys that I buy, the jersey curse. All the real NFL shop jerseys that I've purchased, they don't mean a thing anymore because Juju Smith-Schuster, I have his Pittsburgh Steelers version away jersey. He signed with the Chiefs. I have an Antonio Brown home jersey for the Steelers.
That's self-explanatory.
I don't even know what to say about AB. He might own the Broncos one day.
Maybe soon.
I have a Jameis Winston Tampa Bay Buccaneers home jersey, and he doesn't play for the Buccaneers anymore. So, yeah.
Don't you have a Derrick Henry, though?
I have a Derrick Henry, but that one is from our good friends in China.
Oh, okay. That's where I get all my jerseys from, too. So I actually have an away jersey curse myself. So I obviously have an Aaron Rodgers home jersey. That one's fine. I have a Kyler Murray home jersey as well. But my one away jersey that I have belongs to the former Packer Devontae Adams. And every time I wore it last year, we lost the Packers. Because I would wear it for away games typically. Because, it's the white away.
Yeah.
The first game of the year got destroyed by the Saints. The next time I wore it happened to be the game that Aaron Rodgers was out against the Chiefs. Because I was like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is out. I can't wear the Rodgers jersey.
God, that Jordan
Got to wear that
game.
one. Lost that game by a lot. What was the other game we lost? Oh, Detroit. Last game of the year. Because I I kind of picked up on it after those first 2 games. I was like, okay, this might have a curse. The last game, it didn't matter if we lost or not. So I was like, I'm going to test it out before the playoffs just to make sure.
And it was.
We actually ended up losing. So I was like, just not even going to touch it in the playoffs. And then obviously the curse came full circle, complete whenever Devontae was traded to the Raiders a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I actually have one more too. This one is pretty recent. You may not know this guy, obviously. Some Carolina football people would know this guy, but Tony Grimes, the starting cornerback for the Tar Heels, I have his jersey too, and he was number 20 his freshman and sophomore year, so these past 2 seasons. And he just got up and changed his number from number 20 to number 1 for next season. So I have his jersey, number 20 Grimes, and now it's number 1 Grimes. So that jersey is kind of weird too now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The jersey madness. It's always risky buying one of those.
Yeah, it really is. I remember my dad told me that when I was younger. He's like, now you can buy these, and great, NFL jerseys are like $100, and they've gone up in price actually. Seems like now they're like $125 now. And he was right. You can buy these jerseys, but you got to remember that there's a great chance that they will not be playing for this team within 3 to 4 years. So,
yeah,
and he was right. So.
That is true. Thankfully, I saw my Rodgers one, though. But that about wraps up the show here for episode 9. Probably it's standard time, not really anything special, not any shorter, not any longer. Got a lot of good stuff in. Next week should be good because we'll be recapping. Obviously, probably another week of football. Expect a few more huge things to happen, I would assume.
Yeah.
The draft inches closer, and it will be next week will actually be the last show that we have before opening day baseball. So after that, I think we'll probably start becoming a big baseball podcast.
Yeah, a little bit more than obviously now. We didn't even mention it this week.
It's just been spring training. It's been the same thing over.
And like you said, spring training stats are fake, so it doesn't even matter.
Exactly.
But
Wander Franco's batting 071. Doesn't matter because it's spring training.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But one thing that I promised I would do today, Jace Spragley still in the lead in our tourney challenge for the Show Me Show tourney challenge. He has North Carolina winning it all, and they're still alive. He had Miami in the Final Four, but they just lost to Kansas.
Yeah.
So and then we have one other person who's also in the running, Goat, who has Kansas winning it all, and we just saw them beat Miami by 26 points. So
it looks like
looking good.
Yeah, it looks like Jace Bradley has it all but wrapped up as long as Kansas doesn't win it all.
Yep.
The only way that Goat can pass Jace Bradley is if Kansas wins it all.
Yeah.
And North Carolina fizzles out here really soon.
Jace's bracket is just insane too. I can't believe all the things he got right. If you have the time, you can go into the tourney challenge and look at his bracket specifically, and it's just like, wow. I mean, he didn't get everything right, obviously. Nobody ever does, but it's just like, how did he do it? But then again, he also had Seton Hall in the championship, so
whatever. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe a Seton Hall alum and Shaheen Holloway will be in the
maybe that's what he meant. Maybe that's with the philosophy. Maybe he has a philosophy of a magic 8 ball, something like that he looks to, and maybe it was just kind of mixed reading a little bit. Seton Hall,
or maybe it was just maybe it was like a New Jersey team, and maybe it was
like, oh, that's gotta be Seton.
It can't be St. Peter's. It's got to be Seton Hall. Yeah.
So maybe Jace just misread that there. Yeah. Don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't blame him either. But it's wild to think that if I would have looked at that bracket beforehand, I would have been like, dude, this guy sucks. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But then here he is. He's probably going to win, with the exception of Kansas winning the tournament. Going to win the challenge. So it just goes to show how mad March is.
Yep.
Full of madness.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Gotta update the thread here with Miami, Florida's been officially eliminated. So
yeah, that's still going. But yeah, that's our show. North Carolina's getting ready to tip off here, and I'll be watching that diligently. But yeah, that's our show.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have a great week.